Hey, Webmong World Entertainment, and there's an interesting story here. Now, I'm not putting a lot of faith into this story because it's a bit strange, but we're going to take a look at it. Because when you see a headline that reads, Supergirl and Clayface raise red flags for Warner Brothers in 2026, you go, okay, what exactly do they mean by this? Do they mean by they're going to be massive failures and stuff? It's not quite what they're talking about this. They're seemingly saying that Warner Brothers simply don't particularly care or view these projects as big enough to even worry about. So they're trying to say if they bomb, it's no real big deal. That these two movies are not their focus with DC. Which, that sounds incredibly weird and strange because Supergirl, you think, would be a big part of their plans. But let's have a look at this article anyway, because it's weird, and I don't believe that Warner Brothers don't care about if these movies do well or not. But it says anyway, as Warner Brothers looks ahead to 2026, two DC projects from James Gunn are already being treated as red flags inside the industry, Supergirl and Clayface. Warner Brothers' expectations for Supergirl and Clayface appear notably muted, as both DC films made Puck News' list of red flags for Warner Brothers in 2026, with Supergirl even cited as lower budget. So they have here Supergirl June 26th, lower budget DC with Millie Alcock starring, Clayface September 11th, R-rated DC villain horror movie. As Matthew Baloney writes in Puck News, the studio's 2026 success won't be measured by how either DC film performs at the box office. So he wrote this, Warner Brothers' upcoming year will be defined not by whether Supergirl or Clayface do either 300 million or 500 million, but if Fennel, I have no idea how you pronounce this dude's name, and Cruise, which is Tom Cruise, Maggie Gyllenhaal, or even Denis Villeneuve, in a franchise he made cool, that being Dune, can deliver something that breaks through, or so hope Mike and Pam Abdi. So I don't know what the Fennel thing is. Like, these are people's names, so I don't know who that is and what they're working on. The Tom Cruise and whatever this dude's name is, I think that's meant to be the sci-fi movie that they're doing. Maggie Gyllenhaal, that would be her Frankenstein movie, The Bride of Frankenstein, whatever the hell it's called, which looks terrible, by the way. And of course, Dune 3. So the only one in all of that I think has a chance of making money is Dune, because I don't even know what's happening with that Tom Cruise movie. I think that's actually been delayed or something. So Baloney's framing is telling. Instead of positioning Supergirl or Clayface as major tentpoles, Puck suggests they're essentially filler, lower budget stake bets that won't define the studio's year one way or the other. In short, they don't matter. That's not how studios talk about movies they believe in. If Warner Brothers truly thought Supergirl was a breakout hit or a cornerstone of the DCU, it would be central to the 2026 narrative. Instead, it's treated as background noise. So you're seeing what they're trying to put out here. By the way, this whole lower budget, I did the video about that as well. That's BS. The budget, they've already told us that the budget for this thing was in and around, if not above, 200 million. Now they're trying to suggest that it's well lower than that it's more on par with Clayface, which apparently has a 40 to 45 million budget. So yeah, and of course that filmed in the UK, so we will get to see what those actual numbers are. So that skepticism lines up with everything else surrounding Supergirl so far, which includes heavy backlash to the trailer, poor test screening chatter, weak international interest, especially in China, and further comparison to Gunn's Superman, which underperformed overseas. Now, Puck is essentially confirming what many fans already suspect. Warner Brothers isn't counting on this movie to move the needle. Clayface doesn't fare any better in Puck's analysts. Despite being an R-rated DC villain film, it's lumped into the same category. Not a disaster waiting to happen, but not something Warner Bros. Expects to matter financially. One of the most striking parts of Baloney's piece is how openly DC is being given a pass. The bar is so low after recent failures that simply not collapse is treated as success. So he wrote, "So DC is getting a bit of a pass because expectations were so low, and Marvel whiffed worse this year with 3 films, Captain America Brave New World, Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four First Steps, that each grossed far less than Superman. But low expectations don't fix the core problem. Audiences, especially international ones, aren't responding to Gunn's DCU the way they did to the Snyderverse." Puck specifically mentioned Snyder's Man of Steel, saying, "Their Superman worked well enough to please fans and enable future DC movies in this universe, but its worldwide gross was less than the $670 million Man of Steel in 2013, about $930 million in today's dollars." So it kind of goes on a little bit, but I don't believe that Warner Brothers pretty much don't care. I think they care greatly, especially when you're trying to sell the studio. To have out something like a Supergirl movie, which is your follow-on from your Superman movie, which, yes, underperformed. You were not sitting there going, well, as long as it doesn't come in under 300, we'll be happy. Yeah, that's crap. I don't believe that at all. Why would you be doing the movies if you didn't actually want them to succeed? And to put them in there to say, they're just going to be filler while we wait for Dune to come out in December. Like, keep that in mind. That doesn't come out until this coming December. This time next year, we'll be talking about Dune Part 3, whether it'll stuck the landing or absolutely shit the bed. So, this idea, that well, providing they don't move it, but it's like, no, they're clearly not putting a movie out in June and expecting it to do well enough just to fill in the gap while we wait until December. That makes no sense. Absolutely no sense whatsoever. So, do I believe this story? Not particularly, no. Because I just think it's too stupid to sit there and say, they don't care. They really don't care. Of course they care. You know, they've taken the risk of getting rid of the Snyderverse, getting rid of Henry Cavill, all of these guys, bringing in James Gunn, setting up this new universe that they've pumped money into. And if you can't stick the landing with your movies, what's that going to do for your shows? Because they still have shows to come on to HBO Max. And you're not going to put movies out where you're like, well, we don't care if there's no audiences for these. You'd end up going, well, if there's no audience for that when we put it on the big screen, there sure as shit ain't going to be an audience for when we put it on the TV. What are we going to do now? I just don't believe it. And of course, as I said, the Supergirl budget is over 200 million. So, yeah, it ain't filler. And they will definitely be hoping that thing can break even. But what do you guys think? Have you heard this news? Do you think these are just being looked at as filler while they wait for bigger, better movies to come out? Do you think Warner Brothers truly don't care? Let me know what you think of all this. Personally, I think it's crap, but let me know what you think. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like, share, subscribe, hit the hype button, check out memberships, all that good stuff. You know the drill. Cheers. Catch you in the next one.